Damian Lillard just had a 71-point game. He hit 13 threes in that game in 39 minutes. 8th player to score 70 points or more in a game. The second one this season. Mitchell had 71 against the Bulls earlier this year. And we talked about it yesterday, John, on the Joel Moran show. You know, after the Clippers and Wolves games, we went on for a little bit. We talked about it. Now, listen, I'm done with making Damian Lillard mock trades. I think he's staying and he's retiring in Portland. And I'm over it. And listen, I can't blame him because Dame recently said the grass isn't always greener, and he pointed to Russell Westbrook being an example of how the grass isn't always greener, and he made a valid point. Russell Westbrook is on his fourth team in the last 4 seasons. He's undoubtedly a Hall of Fame player, and OKC fans still cherish and love Westbrook. It's these other fan bases that are left with a sour taste in their mouth, and Dame, I think, is making the right decision because I think in the modern NBA, all we look at is a player winning championships, and we define their career a lot by winning. But Damian Lillard has made $230 million in his career with the Blazers. He just signed a 2-year extension that's going to put him well over $300 million. He has the money. His entire family's in Portland, his wife, his kids. He doesn't want to relocate them, and I think you always have to take that into account. We always look at the basketball side of things, but this is a family side of things, and I think there's a reason why Dame doesn't want to leave Portland. He's already Portland's all-time leading scorer. He's had multiple memorable playoff games, playoff game winners. While I don't think he's the best Blazer of all time, I think that's Clyde Drexler. Dame is definitely top 3, and why leave security, familiarity, community for a chance to win a championship when it's not even guaranteed? We're not even sure if you're going to win a championship. And I always go back to this interview that Kevin Durant had with Chris Haynes on Bleacher Report, where Kevin Durant talked about his legacy, and he said, "My legacy is predicated on what Cam Thomas is learning from me and what he'll take away to help him by the time he's in his 10th year. That's my legacy." I think Dame is adopting that same mindset to his career. He values being a mentor. Look at the Blazers right now. Players such as Anthony Simons, Dame very early on said he was going to be a star player. He's mentored him this entire way, and now Anthony Simons is a star in his own right. Shaedon Sharpe is up and coming. Nasir Little has kind of turned around his career and is now an impactful role player. Cam Reddish, maybe there's some hope for him in Portland. Keon Johnson, Watford. I think it's important for Dame to try and win at the highest level, but also I think he is okay, and he wants to set the foundation for future Blazers teams and wants to be remembered in that way. And because of that, I'm fine with him not wanting to force a trade and leave Portland. I think he's going to retire a Blazer, and he's going to be a legend. You know, maybe in NBA history, we're not going to remember him like a Steph Curry or other all-time great players, but he will be remembered as one of the faces of the Blazers franchise, and he could possibly get a statue in Portland too.
He deserves one.
Yeah. And you know what? That's exactly what's going to separate Damian Lillard from every other All-NBA guard. When you look at the most loyal players in NBA history, Dirk, Kobe, who at one point requested a trade, Kevin Garnett, who eventually also got traded to Boston, none of them stuck with the team when things look so bleak. And when you talk about Dame, number one, right now he's a first-team All-NBA player. You can make a case by the end of his career he'll be a top 10 point guard of all time because of his big-time moments and that, for a decade, elite-level play. The fact that in an era where teams are switching more than ever and player movement has reached an all-time high, Dame is the one star that is relevant enough to say, I could have went to a Milwaukee or Phoenix or a Dallas, any of these teams, and selfishly, I would love it as well an NBA fan, getting to see an all-time guard in the highest stakes because Dame has not played with an all-star since 2015. He was 22 years old, or 23. He's 32 now. But that's exactly what makes him so unique. While selfishly, it can be frustrating, Blazer fans love it for the simple fact that you do not see stars so loyal to such a small market. And in part, that's because just day-to-day, he loves it. It's great for his family. But I think at a certain point, man, we have to just acknowledge the fact he's never going to be traded. And that's okay. Like, we can appreciate what he's doing now as basketball fans. The fact that he's dropped 71 points in 4 quarters of basketball, having 1 3-pointer shy of Klay Thompson's 3-point record, he is going to be one of the most underappreciated NBA players, but his legacy should age so well because of how badass it is.
Yeah.
He never left. And you know what? Maybe if the Blazers can get these young guys to develop in time, he can have one of those playoff runs and maybe go to a conference finals and end on a high note like a Reggie Miller. That would be really special.
And not to change the subject, but the Joel Moran burner's back?
It is back. I saw the comments. I'm glad that it is back.
I know. Do you think it just took a break because you took a break?
No, because he wasn't tweeting before that.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, but I'm glad that he's back. If you're watching the Joel V. Moran burner, I want you to keep tweeting.
Also, Sam Hauser was just locking up Darius Garland. Anyway, Damian Lillard, 13 3-pointers, 60% on those 3-pointers. 13 for 22, I think it was. Just absolute stupid numbers. Only shot 14 free throws, made all of them. Got the win. 2 turnovers as well. Like, Damian Lillard is this was probably the most impressive performance of the season. I think this is over Donovan Mitchell, taking account overtime. Efficiency, I don't remember off the top of my head how efficient Donovan Mitchell was.
80% shooting for Dame.
God damn. 80% is fucking 2K numbers. And I think his comments after the game was the most interesting. First of all, he got a drug test right after the game, and he was not happy about that. He said how he hates getting blood drawn, even though he's, completely tatted up. Doesn't like needles, I should say. But then he also said, you guys shouldn't let me win a championship if I'm in Portland. And I understand that for Dame, because that's really the only thing lacking on his resume is going to a finals, having consecutive success in the playoffs. And I understand his frustration because it's almost always the same story or same narrative around Damian Lillard. He is the most loyal player, arguably, in the NBA. He's one of the most underrated players, like you mentioned, at the end of his career, going to be one of the most underrated players, one of the best scorers, one of the best three-point shooters. But one thing that's never going to be said about Damian Lillard, as long as he stays in Portland, is he's not an NBA champion. And I think that's okay, right? I think that's fine that, not every player, actually majority of players are never going to win an NBA championship. But when you are one of the best players of all time, right, top 75, when you do have some of these ridiculous seasons and you're thought of as one of the best players in the NBA, I think fans, media, front office people, there's everyone around the NBA is expecting you to win a championship. They're expecting you to get there. They're expecting you to put on for those big moments. And I think that's maybe the disconnect between us as viewers of the game and Damian Lillard as the human being. Because, like, going back to Joel's point, I think that matters more than him to win the championship. I think he obviously has a home in Portland. And you saw after the game, right? He drops the 70 points. All of the players are coming over, pouring water and Gator on him, just going crazy. I think people are saying, he's the GOAT, right? I think that matters more than anything to him, right? And a lot of us get, I don't know if confused is the right word, but maybe obsessed with championships and obsessed with
Rings
guys.
culture.
Was it rings culture? Yeah, facts. Yeah. Just obsessed with guys winning championships, and with all the player movement with KD and LeBron and all guys moving teams to find ways to win championships. When we see someone not do that and stay in a situation that is less than ideal, and you have your number 2 and CJ McCollum get traded, now you have Simons come in, we're almost expecting them to ask out. We're expecting them to request a trade, or expecting them to go somewhere else because you got to win a championship. This is your time to go. But I think more importantly for Dame, it's just he's happy in Portland, man. He wants to be there. His family's there, like you mentioned, Joel. He made a home here, and that's where he ultimately wants to be. So impressive performance. I mean, one of the most impressive performances you're going to see in NBA history. Who knows? Maybe someday, years down the line, someone could drop 100 because that's what it feels like this NBA is going to. We had 2 70-point games this season. And if it's true that Damian Lillard doesn't want to get traded, or, maybe it's more likely, I think we should say, that they get a second star. They do have draft picks. I think they have a couple extra firsts down the road. And Simons is probably that one player you could package. And Mikal Bridges and picks get you KD. Simons and picks could get you something. You know what I mean? Maybe it's not KD, but that shouldn't have got KD regardless. But that could probably get you something. Simons and a bunch of picks. Hopefully Portland in these last few years with Damian Lillard playing at his absolute peak basketball can bring in a second superstar. Because like you guys mentioned, it doesn't seem like he's leaving Portland.
And I think that's just an analogy for life. Sometimes you got to be content with what you have.
It's a fact.
And Dame has a lot. He's made $200+ million.
Yeah, the money's not even a question anymore.
And has a home in Portland. And I think also, people always look at a player that doesn't win a championship, but I'd much rather be Dame, a player who the organization loves you so much that you won't get moved, versus players that are constantly getting moved around the NBA. There are so many players around the NBA that wish they could stay with one organization their entire career and they don't have to worry about getting traded.
Yeah.
And Dame is somebody who's very secure in his spot. He's secure in what the organization wants and how much they want to keep him. And he has those same values.
I have 2 more notes. So Kirk Goldsberry had this stat. Dame had 420 feet worth of shot makes in that game, which no other player has done since tracking data started back a decade ago. The second thing, though, is, let's be honest, if Dame's production dropped to a point where it was regressing, the Blazers don't act like any franchise. They would move him. Let's be honest. The Blazers are not that tied into Dame because, like any franchise, you have to do what's best for you.
Yeah.
And now it's best for Dame. So I don't know if that's true. I disagree with that. Now, of course, they won't move him because he's playing at a top 10, top 12 level. But at the moment he starts to fall back like a Bradley Beal, it's top 25, top 30, I'm more than willing to bet they will look to explore their options.
For $60 million, the team's going to do that?
No one would, but that's exactly why they would, because of how much he's making. So I don't think
that's
any
exactly
franchise,
why no team
for any
would,
superstar.
I think. The Superman.
Well,
I think
Portland would be willing to move him, without a doubt.
So you think he doesn't stay at Portland for his entire career?
I do, because no one's going to give a good enough offer for him. But that's not to say if one sucker did, gives up 3 first-round picks in 2 or 3 years, that they wouldn't trade him. Because I'm more than willing that they would. Oh, yeah.
But you mentioned that, but I think this is a similar situation to Dallas. Dirk was washed his last couple of seasons. Dallas kept him. They did not move him. You don't think that same loyalty applies to Portland and Dame?
Dirk won a championship, won the finals twice, an MVP. I think there was a lot more gravitas for Dirk after that 2011 run than.
You don't think there's a lot of gravitas with Dame and just him staying in Portland?
Clearly, there's a difference between one Western Conference Finals appearance and an MVP plus.
I'm not saying there's not a
MVP.
difference, but I'm saying you don't think that same loyalty will apply to Dame for the Blazers?
Not as much, no.
Okay.
Dirk is different.
But
at
you
that
still
point,
believe that he'll stay with Portland for his entire
Dirk
career?
was 36 years old.
Okay. But you still believe Dame will be in Portland for his entire career?
Most likely.
Okay.
You think it's more likely that Portland trades him rather than Dame going to Portland?
Yeah, I think it's more likely Portland would move him. Yeah.
I think he's going to retire Blazer.
I think so too.
I have a Would You Rather Dame edition.
Here we go.
Yeah, this is going to have a mixture of some all-time point guards and some current ones.
Okay.
Mostly just all-time, though.
Okay.
This is Would You Rather Damian Lillard edition. First name up. This is all-time edition. Russell Westbrook.
Dame.
Yeah, I would go Dame. Westbrook has the MVP, which is the only reason I hesitate, but Dame was a better player.
Who I'd rather have on my team?
It's a fact.
Listen, I think Russell Westbrook, MVP, can't disrespect that. Made the finals with KD. They were very young, and I think if James Harden stays in OKC, they win a championship ultimately. Just given Dame's range, how he can fit into any offensive system seamlessly, I would go with Dame. But I think when we talk about resume, Russell Westbrook does have a better resume than Dame.
Yeah. Maybe it would help if he got to play Kevin Durant, LeBron, and Paul George.
Well, he didn't play with them and won MVP.
Well, that's
Dame has no
in the
MVP.
playoffs. Well, I'm saying if Dame got to play with Kevin Durant, I think he would probably win a championship.
Maybe. You never know. Could have never happened. Yeah. But I'm saying that individually, Westbrook does have a better resume, though.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
That MVP, no doubt. Steph Curry.
Steph.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, this is easy.
Come on.
This is easy, Steph. Chris Paul.
Ooh, man.
All time, man. I'm going with Chris Paul over Dame. I am.
I'm going Dame.
He's made multiple teams better, whether it's been the Hornets when he got drafted in 08, he was an MVP candidate. He went to the Clippers. He went to the Suns, OKC, and the Rockets almost won the finals, but he got hurt in Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals. I'm going with Chris Paul all time. I am. Defensively, has multiple all defensive teams. Give me Chris Paul.
You took Dame.
Think about it. 2 guys that will carry your teams to the playoffs almost every single year at their peak. But with Dame, it's different because Chris Paul broke down every year, I felt like.
Towards the ender. Yeah, Dame's longevity.
Looked like he broke down later in the playoffs. He was Game 7 versus the Nuggets in the second round.
Yeah,
he had 13 points. He has stinkers.
I think I would slightly lean Chris Paul, but that's the closest one so far.
Give me Dame Dollar.
Man, he's a prisoner of the moment type of guy, man. CP3, respect him, man.
Oh, I do. I mean, it's a tough one. It's awesome.
You said Dame pretty
by the way, Chris Paul's top 3-point guard of all time, so it's pretty tough. I'm thinking at their peak.
If he's a top 3-point guard of all time,
at their
what
peak,
are we talking about then?
Well, this is not resume. This is who I'd rather have. And Dame Dame has not played with an All-Star in 9 years.
This is an all-time, though. This is not just
I feel like when we do all-time, it's not more so who would you rather have. It's like we'd bring accolades.
Who would you rather have at their peak?
Taking Dame.
All right, cool.
I'd probably still lean Chris Paul.
Steve Nash.
Again, like when you bring accolades into it and everything.
This is what makes it tough, the accolades.
Because I think Steve Nash in this era with how many threes he'd shoot could be like a 22 plus and 10 guy.
Yeah.
I think I'll take Steve Nash, man.
30 and 8 guy. It's just tough.
Steve Nash is a 2-time MVP.
Yeah, if I'm saying consistent, I guess. But
gotta
like
go with
again,
Nash.
if
I
I
touched
just
myself
want
in the
someone on
hole
my
here.
team, I'd rather have Dame. But at
Over
his,
the ultimate point guard than Steve Nash?
yeah, in today's NBA,
I dug myself in a hole taking Dame over CP.
I feel like
But
I
I draw back.
I feel like
I
I
stand
dug
with my
myself
word.
taking CP over Dame. Because now I feel like it's easier for you to keep the same logic. It's just like, who would I rather on my team? It's Dame.
I mean, Steve Nash right now, wouldn't he just be like a better version of Trae Young in
That
today's
is
NBA?
not as dynamic a score, but
He,
in
if
terms
he
of
took
more
more
efficient,
shots,
he'd
he
be
could,
He'd
though.
be way more efficient.
Oh man, I can't take Steve Nash, but
I think Steve Nash in this era could be like 24 and 11, bro. Like in this era,
That's a fact. It's
Bro,
hard.
with
That's
his
why it's so
three-point-
hard to compare
he
these
was
hours.
a 40% 3-point shooter. I think if he took more threes in this era, man, he would go crazy.
I think slightly into Steve Nash again.
if I could go back, I would take CP over Dame, and I'm also going to take I'm going to take Steve Nash over Dame.
You're taking Nash over Dame.
Yeah, I'm gonna make an edit if I'm allowed to. I gotta respect my guy Chris Paul, but it's tough because Dame never had that opportunity to play at the
We're gonna edit
superstar.
that in the TikTok.
And Nash had
I
an
edit.
opportunity to win a championship too. And I think it was 06 or 07. I think it was the
Multiple
07
years.
Suns.
Really bad luck they had.
Yeah, 07 Suns, they were a championship team for sure. Jason Kidd.
I'm taking Dame personally, but that's tough. That's really tough.
Look, the stats are going to lean Dame, no doubt. But you talk about Jason Kidd's defense, his playmaking. He took 2 teams to the NBA Finals.
Fuck.
I don't know, man. I'm going to go with Jason Kidd.
Mhm.
I feel like I just got to keep the same logic. Now that I took Steve Nash and Chris Paul, I'm taking Dame. Fuck the logic.
And now last one, Kyrie Irving. Peak for peak. We know Kyrie, 2016 NBA Finals. Dame Lillard, we know he has his moments too.
I'm taking Dame.
I'm taking Dame. I can rely on him a lot more.
If
Yeah, I'm
Dame
taking Dame
was
too.
on the fucking Cavs with Kyrie, with LeBron, what are we talking about? Would have been the same thing.
That's why I'm
taking
so
Dame.
high on him. Like
Yeah.
people are gonna go crazy. I think CP is one of the 4 greatest point guards to ever play. He's in the Mount Rushmore. The amazing thing about Dame's career is that he is not like the best player got to play with was LaMarcus Aldridge and then CJ McCollum. And the year where CJ McCollum played at a, let's say, almost superstar level, they went to the conference finals. Man, Chris Paul, Steve Nash, not as much Steve Nash, but I mean Chris Paul and Kyrie, they played with some of the greatest players, and CP less so with Harden, but top 5 players at their peak.
I understand, but Chris Paul at his peak with the Hornets,
58
not
wins,
even
yeah.
his peak, but
No, he was an MVP that year.
David West was an all-star because of him.
Yeah. He
Tyson
should have won
Chandler
MVP
was
that
good.
season.
David West.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Chris Paul
Yeah.
he was a demon, man.
Mhm.
He
He was
was
a demon.
for sure.
And everywhere I think LaMarcus Aldridge or Blake Griffin at that time.
Is Blake Griffin the best Clipper of all time? I through the wire was talking about that in the last episode. Kind of had me crying.
That's
It's ridiculous, but it's kind of true.
It's either him or Elton Brand or Chris Paul. Elton Brand has some great Clipper years.
Before his torn Achilles, I think it was.